الترجمة تحت عنوان الترجمة وطرائق تدريسها. ومعي الآن الدكتور علي المناع، وهذه مقدمة قصيرة في تعريف الدكتور علي المناع. له ماجستير من جامعة وستمنستر ببريطانيا عام 2005، ودكتوراه من جامعة ببريطانيا أيضا عام 2012، وله دبلوم في الترجمة القانونية من نورث لندن، ودبلوم في طرائق التدريس من كلية ساوث تايمز في لندن أيضا، وله مؤلفات في اللغة العربية: الترجمة، تاريخها، نظرياتها، تطبيقاتها عام 2008، وله كتاب في اللغة العربية: الترجمة بين تجليات اللغة وفاعلية الثقافة مع الدكتور محمد فرغل، وله في اللغة الإنجليزية كتاب نظريات الترجمة من شيشرو إلى بينك بوديو عام 2000 بوديو نعم عام 2014. ووقع مؤخرا عقدا مع جامعة كامبريدج لنشر كتابه مع الدكتور محمد فرغل نظريات الترجمة منهجا عمليا. ووقع ايضا عقدا مع الناشر الالماني لينكوم يوربا لنشر كتابه نظريات الترجمة في سياقها الصحيح. فليتفضل ليلقي علينا محاضرته. اهلا وسهلا.
It is my pleasure and honor to sit here in front of you, my colleagues and students. The topic of my presentation is translation and its methods of teaching. I need just a volunteer to translate the title, just to help me, please. Yes, Zain.
الترجمة وطرائق تدريسها.
Another translation, please. Yes, please, Ali.
الترجمة وطرائق تدريسها.
Okay, similar. We need something different, please. Can we say yes, Nora? الترجمة وسائل التدريس. You see here, yes, please. كيف تدرس الترجمة. Therefore, when we teach, it is very important to take into account that we have different versions, different equivalents. So you have to wait. You have to take into account a number of factors. There is no need to rush your feet and you say sorry or correct. So I'm going to build the whole presentation on a general assumption, saying that in order to ensure the quality of the product, one has to ensure the quality of the process. When I talk about the quality of the product, I talk about the quality of our trainees, the quality of our students. I don't talk about the quality of the teacher. We will see. Here, my claim. And to answer the question, how can the process of teaching be ensured, we have to discuss this question from different perspectives. First, the teacher, him, herself. The trainee, in particular, they focus on just the teacher and what you offer as a teacher. Because of time, I cannot touch on the education system. We need many hours. Let's start with the teacher. What do you offer, and how do you offer? I mean, what do you teach, and how do you teach is very important. So, as translation teacher or any teacher should have a course plan. It doesn't matter if you have it written on a piece of paper or you have it in your mind. For me, as a teacher, we should have a course plan. While designing the course plan, you should take into account a number of factors. Your topic, what are you going to teach? What are you going to teach? Are you going to teach translation theories? Are you going to teach Also, when you translate from English into Arabic, and you are a native speaker of Arabic, it's easy to understand the text. But it's difficult to put it in the Arabic language. So therefore, as teachers, our department, we have to focus on writing when we translate from Arabic into English. But when we do it the other way around, we have to focus on how to understand the source text, particularly when you translate from English into Arabic. Why? Because we are native speaker of Arabic. We don't have problem, I mean, just this is the theory, but we have problem to put it in Arabic. But sometimes we first button up, top down, sometimes take this into account. What is important also, you should have objectives. I mean, within these 2 weeks, I have to be able to achieve this and that. You should be able to do this and that. So you should have objective, and your objective should be realistic, in my opinion. And please keep an eye on the translators' competencies. Here, when we talk about translators, we talk about professional translators. According to the European quality 637, they say a qualified translator. We talk about a professional translator. Should have, and somebody said, Naima, how can you translate it if you're stuck to the what? To the linguistic level. So you have to be what? You have to be insider. You have to adopt a cultural approach. You have to be insider in both cultures, in the source language culture and the target language culture. You have to be insider in the source language culture in order to understand. And then you have to be insider in the target language culture in order to encode the social cultural experiences in the target language culture. So you have to be insider. And it is difficult to be bicultural, to be honest. I'm not bicultural. So therefore, you have to rely on what? On research competence. If you face any problem, and then you could what? You could search, you could ask. You ask people. Look at these examples, and they were around in English. A hungry stomach has not a milk and water. For example, I don't like my presentation to be milk and water. What is milk and water? Halib, wala, doesn't make sense for us. So you have to use all these competencies, research and culture and so on. Technical. And now let's move to the most important part of this presentation, how to teach translation. Normally, we rely on traditional methodologies. We classify text into many types according to their topic. Similar to what we offer here in our department in the 4th year. We have literary text, we have scientific text, we have journalistic text, and so on. This is important. I don't like to say it is not important. It is important, in particular when you teach undergraduate students. But you can support this method with something else. We call it, with my colleague Mr. Hashim Lazim Gada in 2011, in a paper, a comprehensive qualitative approach. So from time to time, you provide your students with short text, and then you do a lot of activities. You have minimalist approach proposed by him in 1992 and later 2003. You provide your students with a short text and you ask them to translate that text many times. You finish your translation, please retranslate. When you finish, and then please, as a trainee, select the most appropriate text, the most appropriate target text. The second activity you could work with your students, collaborative translation. You team up your students into a number of students. It depends on the number of students, of course, and it depends on the size of the class. You team them up of 5, 6, doesn't matter. You decide, and then you ask them to translate the same text together. And here they will discuss. They will enhance something called justified confidence. They will listen. They start exchanging views. And it is similar to what we call it in translation studies, think aloud protocols. Think aloud protocols. You ask translator, whether trainees or professional translator, please translate this, but please think aloud. And you start record. Here, there is no need to record, but they will listen to each other. And they will put finger on their aspects of weakness and strength. And the third one, discourse analysis. It is very difficult to ask your students to do discourse analysis without teaching them. Therefore, here I would like to strongly suggest to replace what we have at the 4th year. I think today you have some semantics. I would like you to replace it with something called discourse analysis. Because semantic, although it is important, but it is not enough. While you are doing discourse analysis, you will use semantics, stylistics, semiotics, pragmatics, cultural dimension. Also, you're going to take it into account. Grammatical equivalence, the language role, a lot of things. So, and then when you start teaching them at the end of the course, you give them published translation and you ask them, please criticize this piece of translation. But semantic is important, but it's not enough. If we cannot change it because of the education system, if you remember, we can, let's say, teach semantics in the first semester and we move on to the discourse analysis. Okay? And also important to encourage your students to do revision and editing. And here, let me just distinguish between revision and editing. Revision, when you compare the source text with the target text, you have access to the source text. And then you question issues such as accuracy, completeness, acceptability, readability, a lot of issues. But editing, no, you don't have access to the source text. Therefore, you shift the focus of attention towards issues such as acceptability, naturalness, readability only. Why? Because you don't have access to the source text. So please, when you teach, including me, of course, evaluate, criticize with this in mind. Our translation, either reader-oriented or text-author-oriented. So if you ask somebody, do you like this translation? Please don't say, yes, I like it, or no, I don't like it. Why? Because you have to know a lot of factors, extra-linguistic factors, non-verbal factors. So there's a sort of tug of war. Let's move to text-author-oriented. When you pay attention to the source text, when you pay attention to the original author, your translation will be what? Will be accurate, will be adequate and faithful. The relationship between the source text and the target text is going to be what? It's going to be very strong, but at the end, it's not acceptable, it's not natural. It will strike the target language reader as unusual. But if it is reader-oriented, you normally pay attention to the target language reader. You pay attention to the linguistic and stylistic norms of the target language. Okay, and then your translation will be acceptable, readable, natural, but at the end, it's not accurate, it's not faithful, it's not adequate. You see? And the relationship between the source language and target language is what is wide, weak. But again, it's not up to you. It's not up to your teacher. It's up to a number of factors. First, the purpose of translation. What is the purpose of translation? Scopus theory. You have to know. Text type. You have to know. Readership. Your reader. And the company. Later, when you graduated, the company that you work for. Now, your teacher. Sometimes you have to take into account your teacher. My teacher likes this type of translation. This is what is also parameter. So it's not up to you. It's up to a number of factors. So in my opinion, we encourage our students at the beginning of the course to do something reader-oriented. Get rid of the linguistic and stylistic constraints driven by the source text. Get rid of them. Translate freely. Pay attention to the target language reader. But at the end of the course, we have to what? We have to pull our students down and remind them, please, we have a source text. You have to respect the source text. And this is also one of the ethics of translation. And one of the norms raised by Chesterman 1997 and later 2000, accountability norms. You should have a relationship between the source text and the target text, because there is no relation, and then this is not translation. This is what we call it rewriting. Rewriting. Why? Because you are free. So, and look at here. I think I have only 2 minutes. I'm going to summarize how many theories. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 theories Okay, neithers. Yeah. Cat foods, house, new marks, gut, and veneer. They provide us with a number of different types, different terminologies: formal, dynamic, formal, textual, other, covered, semantic, communicative, direct, indirect, formalization, demonstration. If you focus on this classification, text, author-oriented or reader-oriented, you will understand this by using different terminology. So if you pay attention to the text, author, to the original text, and then your translation will be formal, other, semantic, direct, formalization. But if you pay attention to the target language reader, your translation is going to be what? Dynamic, textual, covered, communicative, indirect, domestication. The aim. Thank you very much.